So joining us now is Gemma Godfrey, Head of Investment Strategy at Brooks Macdonald Asset Management, with us for the next 30 minutes or so. Gemma, nice to see you. So look, we've highlighted where we've been with asset prices. Just give us your take of how much more position liquidation are we going to have, and what's going to be the cross-current of that?
And the focus is on Spain at the moment, and the focus is on working capital. So the Spanish government can't see the wood for the trees, and a lack of working capital could cause a catastrophe, because they're talking about banks having to raise about 30 billion euros, but actually we saw depositors withdraw 31 billion in March alone, and the Spanish government have come out and said three no's. No, they won't let a bank fail. No, they won't let the region fail, and no, they won't seek international support. And the latter point must change, because as Mervyn King once said, it may not be rational to start a run on banks, but it is rational, it is practical to actually participate in one.
And when you look and hear some of those comments from our guest this morning saying at this point the 10-year U.S. Treasury is the only place you want to be, do you agree?
Well, I guess it depends on your time horizon. I would warn against knee-jerk reactions, because they can be costly over the longer term. For example, our house view is actually we're getting out of gilts, for example, because we see that the inflation that's building up means that there's only risk to the downside. And instead we're saying, use pullbacks to buy into high-quality companies and maintain your exposure into kind of stocks, equities, holdings that you feel comfortable with over the longer term.
Are you thinking UK inflation is picking up? Because we've had others, and again, realize they've been saying this for years, but saying we really are going to see UK inflation roll over. It's hard to find a region of the world right now where you don't seem to see inflation rolling over.
I mean, it may roll over in the shorter term, but we're looking on a longer term time horizon. And because of the amount of quantitative easing that's been going on, we do see that over that time horizon the risk is to the downside.
There's still a big negative real yield on, I mean, at these levels, the negative real yield on gilts is huge, right, whichever way you look at it. And just coming back to sort of the Eurozone crisis, because it is driving everything at the moment, particularly with Spain. What base case scenario, and look, no one really knows, but what base case scenario are you investing on?
Well, it's a kind of a wait-and-see scenario, to be confident with your holdings, but wait for clarity. And we're looking for reform, we're looking for consolidation. Consolidation is the key, and also support for the banks. For example, people are talking about Eurobonds. But to see Eurobonds, you need to have fiscal integration first. You need to share your budgets within Europe to be able to share those debt burdens. So those type of murmurings are what we're looking for to be able to gain confidence.
I want to just recap some of the headlines that we're getting from Mario Monti at this hour. He's speaking, of course, we've heard a lot from European officials all morning, a lot of focus on what Monti would be saying. And he says, look, they're far from complacent about Italy's progress, but Italy is still threatened by the huge possibility of contagion, that sooner or later there will be a backlash against fiscal discipline. I think we're seeing that already, that Germany must act quickly on this backlash against austerity. Monti says the EU should consider a deposit guarantee and a bank recap plan through the EFSF. Speaking of base views, do you expect there to be these kind of continued half measures towards fiscal integration?
And it's also, what do they mean by growth? That's another main issue, because as you talked about, there's been this swing, especially in France, from austerity to growth. But France's opinion on what growth is, when they're talking about infrastructure spending, is vastly different from what Germany perceives, which is focus on reform. So again, we're hearing a lot of rhetoric, but we need to focus on actually how do we practically position ourselves.